Welcome, everybody. This is Dr. Danae Starks, and I'm the Education Director with BSBA. Tonight, we have part 2 of our credit bootcamp with Lorraine Moore. So tonight, you're in for a treat. If you were here for part 1, trust me, you do not want to miss part 2. So please share this live, share it to everybody you know, get everybody on here because there's going to be some great information shared. And at this time, I am going to pull up Miss Lorraine Moore, and she is going to take it from there.
Hi, everyone. First, I want to say thank you so much, Janae and Selena, for inviting me to come and talk about credit and some more amazing things. I've been still getting a lot of good feedback from the people that came to the first one. People have been calling me, emailing me, texting me, just saying how the information was just so helpful to them. But what I wanted to do, if there's some people that are watching now, I just wanted you to drop in the chat and let me know, were you able to take some of that information home and actually execute on your own personal credit? And if you got any results back from it. I need to know if what I said was truly helpful and that you took the information. Also, let me know if you were able to go to my website and download my free ebook, because I did all the research. I've done everything that you need to know. I basically summarized it and put it in an ebook, free ebook for you. So if you need that further information, you can go to my website at www.mycreditchange.com and you can get a free copy. I also have some more freebies that I'm going to be talking about too. So the first order of business is I want to talk about some things. I'm going to share my screen here. And I just wanted to give a really brief overview because this is part 2, so I won't go into a lot of the things that I discussed last time. But I want to go into how the credit bootcamp just came about. It started back in 2017. I am a licensed realtor, and a lot of my clients were getting stuck at the credit part. They had the money, they had the want to, and they were approved in every other area except their credit in order to buy a home. And so since I knew how to fix credit, I was able to help them with getting their credit approved. Let me see if everyone can see my screen. There we go. Okay, so normally our credit bootcamp is a high energy 2-hour live session where we educate and empower, provide tools to individuals to fix and improve their credit. And we were able to get a lot of people inside their homes because we were able to help them fix their credit. So it doesn't really matter how much money you make. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor. You have access to be able to have good credit. Okay, so don't worry about, oh, I don't have enough money. Yes, you do, because in some cases it may not take anything except 44 cents or however much a stamp costs to send a letter to fix your credit. So collectively to date, we have helped individuals delete over $2 million in bad debt off of their credit report. Bad debt can mean anything that has gone to collections. How about repossessions or anything like that? Derogatory accounts totaling over $2 million collectively. It's super simple. Okay, now I want to just move forward. The foundation to credit, credit is a foundation to wealth. It gives you access and a seat at the table. It allows you to, partake in a lot of the things that you may need, such as, going on financing a vacation, doing a remodel to your home, purchasing a home, getting a new car, getting a cell phone. A lot of these things require credit, and it gives you access to, quality of life. So it's so important that you have quality credit. Okay, so I'm going to give you 2 sites here and I think there's like a small delay. I hope you can see this. Okay, I'm going to give you 2 websites here where you can go and get a free credit report, annualcreditreport.com and also freecreditreport.com. And if you go to my website and get my free ebook, I give you more websites, reputable websites that are powered by the credit bureaus in order for you to be able to see your scores for free, all 3. Now, I know some of you out there may use Credit Karma. Let me just tell you a quick thing about Credit Karma and some of those other credit monitoring systems is that we don't know where they get their scores from. And you've probably seen that sometimes scores on Credit Karma can be different from, say, if you're going to go to the bank to get a loan, they're very different. is because we don't know where Credit Karma is getting their scores from. And they only provide you 2 out of the 3 scores that you need to see. So I give you some credit monitoring systems that give you all 3 scores. It is so important for you to be able to have accurate information on your credit report because each of these things make a difference. Okay. Now, it is so important for you to have your social security number, your correct address, because if you have someone else's information on your credit report, you may be getting their history and their readings. And in some cases, that may not be, well, in all cases, that's not a good thing. So you want to make sure that whatever's on your credit report is accurate. Okay. Because it can make or break your score in some cases. So make sure that you are looking out for that. So I wanted to go over quickly what a credit bureau is. And a lot of people last time were so fascinated about this. A credit bureau. So here is you. Here is your credit card. And then you have your credit card company. And then you have a credit bureau. Credit bureaus are basically a middleman. They are an institution that gets paid to house your information. So if someone is paying me to hold on to someone's information, I don't really care what that information says. I'm just getting paid to hold it. And so that's why some things on your credit report may be inaccurate because it's not up to the credit bureau to make sure they're accurate. It's up to you to make sure they're accurate and to tell the credit bureau when it's inaccurate. Okay? So credit bureaus get paid to house your information. So when anything is that inaccurate, or let's just say you have some derogatory accounts that have exceeded their statutory limits or whatever the case may be, it's up to you to send a letter. Now, in order to repair your credit, there is always a letter that can combat. And there are 4 institutions, one being the Fair Credit Reporting Act, okay, that protect you, consumer protection agencies that protect you against collection agencies and creditors. And in order for you to be able to benefit from these disputes, you need to know what those protections are and what those laws are. There's actual federal codes that you would explicitly lay out in the letter because you can become your own representation, your own lawyer when you're sending this dispute, right? You put those federal codes on that letter and it makes them respond in your favor because you know your rights, you know the laws that protect you. Okay, so you submit a dispute to the credit bureau because remember, they're getting paid to hold the information. Say, hey, this information is wrong and I need you to update it or I need you to remove this account. The credit bureau then has 30 days by law, unless, and I don't know if you know this, but there is a clause in the law that says that credit bureaus or credit agencies, whomever submits a request, can actually request an additional 15-day extension on that investigative time limit. Okay, but normally the rule of thumb is 30 days or less. So you submit your letter to the credit bureau. The credit bureau then has 30 days to go and verify with the collection agency or whomever you're disputing to find out if it is actually should be on your credit report. And some words in the credit world, they either verify or validate. And I'm not going to go into detail about what those things are. You can go read my ebook or you can contact me for a consultation and we can talk about it, okay? But sometimes they go by validating, verifying these accounts. And then what happens is the credit bureau comes back and says, oh, well, we verified it. Your name was on it, so it's yours, and so it's staying. And then you're stuck with this derogatory account or this account that you don't want. But as a part of the part 2 session, I'm about to give you some game on how to increase your chances of getting these accounts deleted. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for just a second because I want to look you in your eyes when I tell you this information. Okay, so as I was saying is when you go and dispute that information with the credit bureau then goes to the company, right? Now the company, they have all kinds of information. They probably have your mom's maiden name, your first name. We don't know what they have. You don't have a signed agreement with them. So they don't have much information, but we don't know what they have. Those agencies, those companies, they go to these other companies, one of them being a company called Sage Stream. So write this down. It's SAGE Stream, STREAM, Sage Stream. Sage Stream is kind of like this big institution. It's one of many institution that actually holds the real information on you. Okay? They're the ones that calculate your credit score and all of this stuff, right? Now, they have the real information on you. So if this credit bureau is saying, hey, is this her account? Is this her information? And the company's like, oh, we got to go talk to SageStream about that. SageStream says yes or no. They're like the end all be all. Remember, there's one of many. SageStream is just one of them. For the sake of time, I'm only going to talk about one today. Now, here's the game that they're not going to tell you. You as a consumer can go and freeze your SageStream account. Everyone has a SageStream account, okay? It's kind of like this institution that holds your information and it's accurate. You can go and freeze that. And by freezing it, what I mean is you can request that you like silence them. So what happens is you go and you silence SageStream, and they are then not allowed to share any of your information. They're not allowed to validate. Remember that word, validate. And they're not even allowed to verify any of your information. So what happens when the credit bureau or that collection agency or company tries to go and verify your information with SageStream? If they can't get through to them, if they're not giving up any information, they can't verify, remember that word, or validate any of that information on you. And what happens? That account has to be deleted because they say, well, we can't verify. We only have 30 days to do this. They're not saying anything, so that account has to get deleted. Now, that's going to increase your chances of getting those derogatory accounts removed from your credit. Now, this information is very expensive, and I am just giving it to you for free. So I hope that you are listening. I hope that you have your notebook out, and I hope you go get a copy of my ebook on my website because it has more information about these companies, okay? So with that being said, I'm going to move forward. Does anybody have any more questions? I know that someone is asking, what is the title of my ebook? I'm actually going to go to my website and I'm going to show you, okay, how to get it. Let me share my screen again. Share screen. Okay, so if you go to my website, which is mycreditchange.com, okay, now you go to get my free ebook, and then you just put your information here. For the sake of this call, I will go ahead and put mine here for you so that you can see what it's going to look like. Okay, get my free ebook, click that button. And then this confirmation page will pop up and it'll say, click here to download the ebook. And then my ebook will pop up. It's just called Credit Bootcamp. Okay. And I've even outlined, now this is a very simple ebook. Don't try to look for anything fancy because I like to get to the point. I like to get to the meat of things. Okay. I don't like any fluff. I need you to like tell me what's going on or, you know, tell me what I need to hear. So I put a nice little table of contents here for you so that you can maybe skip down to the area that you need to learn more about. Okay. So it talks about what credit is. It talks about utilization, all this great information that pertains to your credit. It talks to you about how to apply for credit. And I even give you some companies to go to that will increase your chances of actually getting accounts with them. And I also talk about how to fix credit. And I also talk about how to combat collection agencies. Now, I didn't talk about this in part one, but I'm giving this to you in part two, but how to combat collection agencies and what to do if they call you. Okay, there's certain things that you can quote on the phone that will get them to stop calling you or trip them up. And I give you an actual like short script on what to say to them. Now, I also give you something very important. Here is some more game, some very expensive game here. There is a particular letter that we use in order to combat those collection agencies or any derogatory accounts. Okay, but before I show you that, let me talk to you a little bit about it. Let me go back here. Oh my gosh, I'm not sharing my screen. So I see a question that says, if you freeze Sage Stream, does that mean you can't open new credit accounts? Now, when you are in the midst of cleaning your credit, you need to hold off on applying for anything new. And if you go through my program, that is one of the things that is in our agreement, our contract agreement, is that you agree that you are going to go on to a blackout. You're not applying for anything new. You're not running your credit. You're not doing anything with your credit except getting it fixed. So in the event that you're going to freeze Sage Stream, you should not have to you shouldn't have you shouldn't be wanting to apply for anything. Okay. So make sure that you are ready to actually black out on the spending, black out on the applications and all of that to just focus on fixing it. And I would say give yourself about 90 days to do that. Yes, there is a website for Sage Stream. You can Google that and they have a website. And I'm also going to give you another website to go to towards the end of my presentation. I'll share that with you. But I'm sorry that I wasn't sharing my screen before. Let me share it now. So I'm going to go back I'm going to do this again for you so that you can see it because I like to be thorough, okay? All right. Now, I want to share this. Okay, now I'm sharing my screen. I think there is like a slight delay, so I'm going to make sure that, here we go. Okay, so we're at my website, mycreditchange.com. You go to get my free ebook, and this screen will pop up. You put your information here. Okay, for the sake of this example, I'm going to put my information, make it super simple. I'm not asking for, anything major, just first name, last name, email address, and then I'm going to hit get my free ebook. Okay. And then you see right here where it says this message is to click here for the ebook. I'm going to click that and it's going to open up to the ebook here. Okay. And as I was saying before, it's super simple, straight to the point. All right. So we got that, right? And like I said before, I put the table of contents here so you can go straight to what you needed to see. Now let me scroll down here and give you some more game while we're in my book. Let's see. Now, the dispute letter. Dispute letter is very important. There's lots and lots of letters that you can send. And it's really up to you to do your research. But if you go through my program, we do have a packet of all the letters that you could ever need, whether it's a repossession, whether it is a bankruptcy. Yep, there's a letter for bankruptcy, whether it is removing late payments. But I also give you a free copy of the Goodwill letter, which helps you to remove late payments. Okay, so there is a particular letter. It's a dispute letter. And it's super important because remember I told you earlier about the federal codes or the different laws that are listed on this letter, dispute letter, that's going to get some reaction, right, from the credit bureau or the collection agency or whomever you're disputing with. That letter, it's in my ebook because people say, oh, can I get a copy of the letter? Well, just get my ebook because remember, there's gems in reading. So right here, I outlined it. It's called the section 609A1A. That's the letter. That's the dispute letter. If you were to Google this or just do your research and find this letter, what it basically says, I'm going to give you a summary, is that it's asking the credit bureau to provide. So you have this derogatory account that you want off your credit. It's actually asking the credit bureau to say, hey, in order for me to pay this money to you that you're saying I owe you, first of all, I'm not pleading anything. I'm not saying this account's mine. I know it's on my credit report, but I am not taking accountability for this, right? Until you can provide me with an original signed contract with an original signature that I have an account with you. Now, let me give you an example. Let's say you had a credit card, you couldn't pay it, it went to collections, it's derogatory. Now, after some time, the collection agency is coming after you. Let me stop sharing my screen because I want you to look at me when I say this. Now, let's just say that the collection agency is coming after you. So you had a credit card with ABC company, right? Now, BCD company is coming after you. Did you have a signed contract with ABC? Yeah, you probably did, right? But it went to collections. Now BCD company, who's the collection agency, is coming after you. Do you have a signed contract with BCD company? No, you do not. But that's who's coming after you. That's who's reporting on your credit report. So when they call you and say, hey, this is BCD company, you had a credit card with ABC, that's how they trip you up because you know you did, but that's not who's asking for their money back. Right? So they're saying you had a credit card with ABC and we're calling to collect. You're like, oh my God, I did. So yeah, that is mine. But what you just did was pled guilty to a third party company whom you do not have a contract with. So that's what a lot of my clients, they are just so like fascinated with the fact that I've been paying collection agencies and I didn't have to because I don't have a signed contract saying that I owe them any money. And so what you're doing is you're sending them the 609 letter to say, prove that I owe you this money by showing me an original signed contract. Now, in my experience, I have had some of those companies send me back a copy of my bank statements or a copy of my credit card statements. That is not what I asked for. You can send me all those statements all you want to. Okay? You can send those all you want to. What I asked for in this letter, according to Section 609A, 609A1A of the Fair Credit Reporting Act, because there's an act that protects you, remember, Fair Credit Reporting Act, Section 609A1A states that you have to provide an original signed signature stating that this account is mine. Okay, so I'm done reiterating that because that's super important with collections. A lot of people have them. That's some free game. Is there a specific order to completing the step actions? What do you mean by that? What step actions? Are you talking about like a dispute step actions? Like, could you clarify your question so I can better answer? Okay, so talk to you about how to find a credit report. I talked to you about freezing the good old Sage Stream. And it's really up to you to research, these other institutions that hold your information from which these companies can go and verify you on. Sage Stream is just one of them. In my ebook, I believe I list a couple more. But we're coming out with a 2.0 book that's going to list all of them. So be on the lookout for that. And if you sign up to get my free ebook, you're in our system to be able to get updates on when the book is going to be launched. Okay. So the next order of business, let me go back to my PowerPoint here. So let me talk to you about the ingredients to a credit score. And if the person that had that question, if you want to repost it, then I can better answer that for you. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen again. Hopefully you can see it here. Now, there are different ingredients to your credit score, okay? Now, some people may say, oh, no, well, let me talk about the ingredients first. The ingredients are payment history. Payment history accounts for 35% of the makeup of your credit score, okay? The amount of debt. High usage, meaning like how much debt you have. Let's just say for the sake of this conversation, how much do you have on that credit card? So if your limit on the credit card is $1,000 and you have $900 on there that you've spent, your utilization, how much you've used, is really high. So that goes into the ingredients of the credit score. The length of credit history, how old is your account? Like, did you, when you're 18, get a credit card and you've had it all this time for 20 years? That is a really long-standing relationship. The new credit, did you just apply for new credit? Because that goes against the age. If you're applying for new credit cards every month, that takes the average age of your credit history down. Okay. And then credit mix. Do you have installment and revolving? Let me talk about those two things. And normally I'm in an interactive session and I like to ask questions to the audience. I'm a call and response type of person. But for the sake of this presentation, I will explain the difference between installment and revolving. Installment is, for like a simple example, is something that you purchase that they say, okay, you have to pay X amount of dollars for this amount of time. And when you're done, the account is paid and that's it. And one thing that comes to mind is, say, like some furniture. If you go and finance furniture, say your furniture costs $3,000 and you pay, I don't know, $100 a month, that's an installment. So you're paying installments until it's paid off and that account is done and paid off. Whereas revolving is like a revolving door. It's like a credit card. Once you pay off the balance every month, you get to use it over again. Just like you walk into a revolving door, you walk in, it spins, and then you can walk out. So it's like a revolving. So that's how you can kind of remember those two things. And to have, well, I won't say to have a good credit score, but to add to the quality of the mixture of your credit score, to add to the quality of ingredients, you want to have a good mix of installment and revolving. Another installment example is your car, right? Because you pay it off and you pay it until you pay off the balance. Student loans, same thing. Mortgage, same thing. It's like you have an end goal. Revolving is credit cards. So the most important thing on here, all of them are important, but the most important is payment history. So people say, well, listen, Lorraine, I pay my bill every single month. I pay the minimum balance. I pay it on time. How come my credit has not gone up? Well, that's just one part of it. You pay your bill on time, so your payment history is good, but your card is maxed out every month and you're only paying the minimum balance. So you've only addressed one of the ingredients in your 5-ingredient credit score. Does that make sense? So I want to put this into pie chart for you. I can't stress enough how much you paying your bill on time is so important. It's also important to have a low balance on your cards. And in my book, it talks about the utilization rate. So I'm going to talk about that in a second. But the payment history, paying it on time. And in this presentation, I'm going to give you some tips on how you can pay your bill on time if you're having a hard time in that area. Okay? But make sure you pay your bill on time. But also make sure that you are addressing all of these areas. Make sure that you have a low balance with your high limit. If your limit is $1,000 in your card, if you have to carry a balance every month, it should be between 2 and 10%. Okay. I know people have probably heard the rule of thumb of 30% utilization rate, meaning 30%, but to get the optimal result, you want to keep it between 2 and 10%. Then the length of credit history, make sure that you have nice seasoned accounts and you're not applying for new accounts all the time, because remember, that takes the average of your age of your credit history down. Okay. And make sure you have a good credit mix. All right, so I talked about those ingredients. I showed you here. Now, let me talk about, let's go to, let's go here. Actually, let me stop sharing really quick to see if there are any more questions. The different action you're saying we should take, such as going to SageStream, yes. Calling the credit bureau, yes. Looking up example letters, yes. In order to doing these things you're talking. Okay, so these are the steps. Yes, so the steps is, yes, you should be, first of all, the first step would be to get a copy of your credit report, because your credit report is like your financial report card and that follows you your whole life. So you want to make sure that you are up to date on what's on there and knowing, like, how is your history. And there's been a lot of times where people have been victims of identity theft, where there's accounts on there that don't belong to them, that's affecting their score and they don't even know. Right? And there are certain things like your name could be spelled wrong, or they could have the wrong last name, right? First name. They could have the wrong addresses on there, or all kinds of things, right? You want to make sure that your credit report is accurate. And so you're wanting to get one every year. So make sure you check your credit report first. If there's anything incorrect on there, know that there is a method to be able to update those. Now, you can do disputes online by going to the three credit bureaus, their websites, Experian.com, TransUnion.com, and Equifax.com. They have the ability for you to dispute online, but through my method, I'm all about like whatever works, don't change the recipe, right? And I have gotten really great results. I've gotten results with disputing things online, but there are some other tips and tricks that I've learned because I had some friends on the inside that tell me like about just how they process things. And as you know, a lot of people don't like to process paper. I like to use paper. I like to do the paper dispute letters, and I like to use blue ink. And there is some reasoning behind that, which I won't go into detail now, but that's another tip for you. So check your credit report, make sure it's accurate. If it's not, get the proper dispute letter. Now, depending on what you're disputing is when you will determine if you need to freeze your Sage Stream or not. So if you're disputing like derogatory accounts, then that's when I would use freeze Sage Stream. But if you are disputing like if you're disputing like your name, or if the wrong address is on there, you don't need to go and freeze that. You're just going to go to the credit bureau and say, hey, you guys are getting paid to hold this information. I'm going to need you to get it right. Okay, so you can just tell them, or on the dispute form, it actually says, if anything is incorrect, then write the correct here. Do we have any more questions while I'm on this topic? Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next section. I hope I don't seem like I'm all over the place. And of course, like I said, this is part 2. In part 1, I was very like streamlined, but here I'm kind of just I'm highlighting the most important areas, and I'm also highlighting some areas that I get asked most. So that's why it seems like I'm all over the place. But I want to talk to you about utilization. Let's talk about a little bit how to use your credit. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen again. After they can't verify, can they add it back? It depends. It depends. And this is why. And I think I don't want to get too deep on that because it's probably something that you shouldn't have to worry about at this time. But the question was, after you freeze your Sage, and I'm assuming after you freeze your Sage Stream and then they can't verify it, do they add it back? In most cases, I have not seen them add it back. Only time I've seen something added back is if, say, for example, one collection agency sells your account to another collection agency. Then that's a whole new collection agency that's reporting to your credit. So those are instances that I have seen. Maybe like you've seen, oh, this old Comcast is like with another collection agency, and so it's back. Well, that probably means that someone has sold off your account to another agency, and then you would just do the same thing. That's why it's so important to monitor your report, because you never know what these people are doing. Like, your information is out there. Let's just keep it real. Your information is out there. So it's so important for you to keep up with it and make sure it's accurate. If they're going to have it, make sure they have the correct information. Okay. I hope that answers your question. All right. So let's talk about utilization. And I'm just going to go over briefly. And if you guys want me to come back, you just let Danae and Selena know. We could do part 3. We can do this all day. I just want to go over a little bit about how to properly use your credit. Okay. So, let me just give you an example. When you are going and using your debit card or you use cash, all that money comes from your checking account. And you using the money from your checking account is not necessarily building your credit or helping to build your credit. Okay. Now, let's just say you're going to the gas station and you're using your debit card or you're using cash to pay for gas, and it's coming out of your bank account. That's not helping to build your credit, but you go get gas all the time, right? Now, using credit and paying it off, that's having a good relationship with the credit. And when you have a good relationship with a credit company, they tend to give you more money. They usually give you more money when you don't need it, right? Or when they see that you have a good relationship, they're more likely to give you more money, which is actually helpful to your credit. Now, you using the money from your checking account is not helping to build. So it's not showing a relationship with your credit card company. You only have a relationship with your bank. Now, let's flip that. If I was using my credit card at the gas station, right? How do I pay my credit card bill? I pay my credit card bill out of my checking account, the same account I use my debit card. But if I switch cards and use it on something that get every week, which is gas, right? That's helping to build my credit. It's number one, showing a purchase, and number two, showing a payment. So if I swipe my credit card at the gas station or grocery store, and the money that I was going to use from my bank account, from my debit card bank account, right? And I just put that on my credit card bill, and I'm doing that every week, that is showing an amazing relationship to the credit card company. Some people think, or some people say, oh, credit cards are the devil or credit cards are not good. That's only for people that don't know how to use it. If I use my credit card as I would use my debit card, I shouldn't have any problems because the money's coming from the same place. Where people get caught up is that they run their credit cards up and then they don't pay the bill or they're late. But if you actually have an invested relationship with your credit, it can actually work out in your favor. I see a question here that I want to, is it okay to use credit consolidation companies like Debt Relief? I do not specialize in those. I personally gone through one of those before, and basically all they did, well, actually, I'm not even going to talk like that about them. That's their business, and I would say do your research. But all this game that I'm giving you and all the material in my ebook, you can do this yourself. Because and it, like, honestly, you're paying someone to pay your bill for you. When in actuality, you can do it without having to close your accounts. That's something they don't tell you, is that they actually close your accounts. And that does not look good. So don't close any credit cards, okay? Because what does that do? That shuts off the age of the account. So it stops aging, stops the relationship. What would a person do in this case? I had an old ATT account, but some collection place is calling. Okay, so if the collection place is calling, if you go to my ebook, I actually tell you what to say on the phone. Okay, you're actually going to quote. It is, let me just show you since I have it up. I'm going to share my screen really quick. Da, 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 da. Okay, here in my ebook on, I don't know what page this is on, but it says here, what debt collectors can do and what debt collectors can't do. I also have here, if a debt collector calls you, I'm just going to go over these because you asked and it's here. And I'm so glad I'm able to have this answer for you that's actually laid out. Do not provide them with any personal information. If you do, that gives them more information to be able to verify when you just send a dispute letter. Remember, we just talked about that. So we're not helping them to verify you. So we're not giving them any personal information. So if they call and say, hey, Jane Doe, can you just verify your account with us? And you be like, oh, yeah. Oh, do you live at 123, Main Street? Oh, yes, I do. You have just given them more information on you. Remember, they're the ones that have to take 30 days to go and research what your information is. So why would we help them out? We don't want to do that. And then number 2, ask them to provide their contact information, including name, address, and fax number. Now, in some cases, they might hang up on you at this point because they know that, oh, she's onto something. She probably knows her rights. Okay. Request written proof that you owe them the debt. Tell them to send it to you in writing. And then guess, you're going to say, hey, if you're saying that I owe you this debt, send it to me in writing. Guess what they're going to say? Oh, can you just verify your mailing address? No, because if you said that this is my debt and you obviously know me, then you should have my mailing address. They'll probably hang up on you then too. Okay. If they say, can you verify? You'd be like, no, I cannot give you information like that. Okay, or you can say, according to the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, and refer to the chart below. Okay, so for example, you say this part here, according to the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, you cannot harass or use any obscene information. So they're not allowed to do any of this stuff. So if you look on the right-hand side of this chart, it tells you what kinds of things they can do. This is by law. So you quote that first sentence there, and then you just list out whatever they're doing to you. You just list it after you quote that first line. If they violate any of these laws based on this chart, you can call your state attorney general's office and file a complaint. I give you the phone number here. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, it should be your friend. Again, you're representing yourself. You can be your own lawyer. That's why I say, why go to those companies and pay them to pay your bills? You have so much information at your fingertips, and here is one of them. Okay, you can also talk to an attorney that specializes in debt collection. But if you go to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, let me give you some more game. That is another institution that you can actually file disputes on your credit report. They're kind of like the grandfather of the credit bureaus. Grandfather, grandmother, whatever you want to say. Okay? They actually have their own space to dispute these derogatory accounts. But what you want to do there, and I'm not going to go into detail, but you can go there and say, hey, I tried to settle this. They didn't respond to me, or they didn't, give me the answer I wanted. So I need you to do your investigation. So this is kind of like escalating the problem, talking to, let's just say, for example, talking to senior management versus management. Okay. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. That is the other site that you should have in your back pocket and phone number. Go to the website, learn about them, and know how they can work in your benefit. Now, if the debt collector contacts you in writing, here are some things that you need to do on how to respond. I even list out how to respond if you've already been paying collection agencies. So say you didn't know any of this information that you're learning now, but you're on a payment plan with some of these people. Here's what you can do in order to get out of this situation that you're in. And I have a personal story about this. Before I even knew what my rights were, in the state of California, if you agree verbally over the phone remember I said how a debt collection can call you, or a collector can call you. If you agree verbally that account is yours, in the state of California, every state has their own statute of limitations. They can only collect from me for 2 years. If you agree in writing, meaning that you have basically signed a contract putting you on a payment plan or anything like that, in the state of California, they can only collect from you for 4 years. Before I knew my rights, I was paying a collection agency for 6 or 7 years. So they got extra years of money out of me. And they got actually the whole thing out of me because I didn't know that I could send a Section 609 A1A letter before I even pled guilty. And that's what happens. That's what happens to our community, is that we end up paying thousands and thousands of dollars when we don't have to. And it's simply because we don't know the law and we don't have these tools at our fingertips to even know to use them. And that's why I'm here. And that's why I'm so passionate about this work, is because simple things like this have saved us from a lot of debt. Okay. So did I list it here? Oh, I didn't list it in here. It's in my other book, the book that's coming out. I actually list all the states and all their statute of limitations. Okay. Do we have any more questions? Isn't that paying more for gas because of the interest? Oh, let me tell you how. Well, I'm going to give you, in my ebook, I actually talk about how interest is charged. If you pay the balance before the statement closing date, because there's a due date and there's a statement closing date. I don't know how many people read their statements, but there's a lot of information on there that can really help you out. There's a statement closing date, which is different than your actual due date. If you pay your balance before the statement closing date ends, you don't have to pay interest. You're only paying interest on money that stays on the card beyond the statement closing date. And that's why I had mentioned that if you go buy gas every week, fill your car up, go online, transfer the money from your checking to the credit card that week. Number one, you fulfilled your monthly, if you have a monthly payment due, or if you have a balance to pay monthly, or you've already paid the balance off, zero. So you can technically have a 0% interest card. Is it true if you send a check and state paid in full that they accepted it if your bill is paid? No, that's not true. Because they might retaliate, or they might respond back and give you all kinds of documentation as to why. So every company is different. But what you can do is, if they write you a letter and say, hey, you owe us this money, this is what you can do. You can send them a letter back and add that check and say, hey, here's what I have for this account. By cashing this check, you agree that the account is paid in full. And here's another part. You also agree to remove this account from my credit report, because when you pay an account, that does not guarantee that they will remove that account from your credit. It will look as if it was paid, but all those derogatory markings are still on there. So you may have paid a collection and it's still on there. And that's terrible. And they're not, like, they got their money, so why would they even bother? But that's why you want to set that agreement up in the beginning. What are some of the best credit cards to have? Guess where I put that information? In my ebook. They're not paying me to promote them, so I'm not going to do that live, but I put some suggestions as to, and I'm not guaranteeing anything. What I have done was listed some suggested companies that I have seen approvals from. So don't take that as, don't limit yourself as that's the only list. So you want to do your research, but I just gave you some information in my ebook as to a few companies that you might want to try out. But wouldn't it be wonderful if you can just walk into, what do we do? We walk into like Macy's or somewhere and you're checking out and they're like, oh, ma'am, would you like to, apply for an account? And what's the first thing we say? Nah. Why? Because we either think our credit is bad or we know our credit is bad, right? But wouldn't it be wonderful if we can walk in there knowing like that we've looked at our credit report, we've been paying our bills on time, we got a good mix and everything, and we're so like much more knowledgeable about it, right? What if we can just know that if they did run my information, we're just going to come back approved? Like it just it gives me chills now. I've been doing this for a long time, but it still gives me chills, right? Because like it's such a different kind of confidence. It hits different when you know that you're going to go somewhere and get approved. Now, I'm not saying to go to every store and get all these accounts. Remember, because you shouldn't be doing that in the first place. You should only be running if you have to run your credit and getting hard inquiries, you should only be doing that no more than 4 times a year before it starts affecting your credit. Okay. So, but I'm just saying those one instances where like, yes, I work hard and I want, a Macy's card. I don't have many credit cards and yes, I want it. So yeah, you can do that. Remember, it gives you access to quality of life. But wouldn't it be wonderful just to know that, yeah, my credit score is bomb and they're about to say yes. And I don't have to feel embarrassed that if they say, oh, I'm sorry, ma'am, you can call this number and they'll tell you why you got denied. Like, no more of that. No more of that for us. When is the ebook coming out? Okay, the ebook is coming out now because it's on my website now. Okay. Is there a fee for your consultation? Go to my website. And depending on what you need, first, I would like for you to come to these presentations first. Look at my ebook. And then if you still need some, because I give you everything I'm going to tell you, it's in my ebook. So if you need hand holding and you need someone to kind of coach you along personally, then yes, it does cost for time. My daughter and I had a joint account. She left it in the negative. How do I fix it? Well, that's not an easy answer, because it's like, if you had a negative, is it credit card or bank account? And is it showing up as a collection account or is it showing up with the original creditor? That's another thing. If, say, for example, credit card company ABC, okay, I'll explain that. If credit card company ABC, you signed a contract with them, you had a card with them, and it's in the negative, and they are reporting it to your credit report, they're still with the original. They haven't sold it off. They're still with the original. If you send a dispute, can they verify you with an original signed contract? Yes, they can. Okay, so that's a whole other beast to address, is if your negative account is still with the original creditor. That's a whole nother beast to go. So we might have to do a part 3 on that, Selena and Danae. FICO versus, can you explain? Yes, FICO score versus credit score. Okay. Part 1, I showed an example of what a credit report looked like. I had the scores and all this stuff. Sorry you missed it, but we'll come back. FICO score versus credit score. There are 3 bureaus, credit bureaus. There is the Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. Each of them has a different credit score, because some companies may report to one and not the other. Some companies may report to all 3. Okay. So when you apply for credit, here's another digress comment. If you apply for an account, call them before and say, hey, what credit bureau do you guys check? Because let's just say your TransUnion score is like a 750 and your Experian is like a 600. You want to use your 750 score. So call them and find out, hey, what credit bureau do you guys check to approve people? Okay. So you want to call them and find out what bureau they check because it could be different. Now, each of those bureaus has its own credit score. Let's just say you had a credit score of 750. So let's say 750, 800, and 850. Okay? 750, 800, 850. Let me see if I can quickly I'm better with like a visual. So let's say you had, I'm gonna share my screen in 1 second. 750, 800, and let's see, 50, 800. Now, remember I said you have 3 scores. Hold on, please bear with me really quick, okay? Do this. I'm kind of doing this live. Okay, now let me share my screen for this. Okay. You have 3 scores, right? Now, let's say you had a 750 score, you had an 850, and you had an 800. Your FICO score is the middle score. Not the physical middle. So this is middle, right? Of what you can see. But the actual middle score. Let me make sure that I'm sharing. Am I sharing? Yes, I am. Okay. The actual middle. So you would take the lowest, which is 750. Throw that out. You would take 850, which is the highest. Throw that out. The actual middle score based on these 3 scores is 800. Your 800 is your FICO. Okay? So let me further explain it to make sure you really got it. So let's say this was your Experian score, this is your TransUnion score, and this is your Equifax score. Let's say you're going to apply for a home loan, and because home loans, they usually take your FICO, which is your middle score, and use that to make to do your approval. So in this case, my FICO would be the middle score because I took the lowest, I threw that out, took the highest, threw that out. My middle score, which is my FICO, was actually an 800, which is coming from my Equifax. So they would use my Equifax score for my approval. Now, there might be some instances where my middle score could be over here, 800. Okay. Just depends on how, what's on my credit report and how it's reporting. My middle score in some cases, my middle score could be Equifax or TransUnion. We don't know what bureau it is, but we just take the actual middle score. That's FICO. So you have your 3 credit scores, and then you have your FICO score, which is the middle score. Okay. Let's see. How much time do I have? Oh, I got 6 minutes. I'm just going to take questions now. So you can add your questions in the chat or however you want to do that. I hope this information was so helpful to you all. Yes, you can email my team, info@mycreditchange.com, with your questions. I do have a team that I work with. You can visit my website, www.mycreditchange.com, to get my free ebook. Oh, yes, I also mentioned that late payments account for the highest percentage of your credit score. And let's just say you have a couple late payments that were for some years ago or some months ago for whatever reason. Remember, there's a letter for everything. You want to send the company that is reporting you late or has reported you late, you want to send them what is called a goodwill letter. That goodwill letter is basically asking them to, be, gracious enough to turn that marking over for whatever reason. We have it all written out about whatever hardship you're going through, whatever, on this goodwill letter. You can get that goodwill letter Where? On my website. So go ahead and go to my website, click the consultation button, and it should be the first product on the consultation page. And it says Goodwill Letter. Do we have any more questions? I need hand holding. Really, Ruby. Go to my website, check it out, see what I got over there. Yes. Send an email. Actually, the best thing to do is to send an email at info@mycreditchange.com. And what you're going to get back is an auto response of how to get how to get a credit report and how to get a consultation. So send an email. You're going to look for the auto response so that you know how to move forward. But also, I want you all to read. I want you all to read my ebook, okay? Okay, so closed accounts. Remember when I said earlier, is that closed account still it depends on how it's reporting. Sometimes a closed account can mean that it's an account that you had that's closed that went to a collection agency, or it is closed and still reporting from the original creditor. So let's say, for example, you had ABC Bank and they closed your account for whatever reason, and it's still on there. Well, guess what? Let's just say the account is closed, but you had a good payment history, and it's closed now. Remember, payment history is not the only thing that's helping your credit score. There's 5 other ingredients in that one account, or each of your accounts. There's 5 other ingredients that's actually helping your score. One of them being the age. So what if you bought that car years ago? If you delete or get that account removed, you're deleting all 5 of those ingredients. So it being closed, that may not weigh the same as all the other things that you want to delete if you're wanting to get rid of it. The only time you really want to get rid of an account is if it's still reporting negatively. But even then, you really kind of have to study this stuff and you really kind of have to study this stuff and really go through my ebook to really understand, because it's not an easy answer just in an hour session for me to explain. Like, you removing an account, there's other things, even a derogatory account. You might have had that derogatory account on your credit for years and years and years. If you remove it, you're removing that years of history. Even though your payment history on that account is messed up, you're removing those other 3 ingredients or other 4 ingredients. So just remember that. So some people may say, oh, I got this, bad account removed from my credit when my score went down. That's because you deleted all the ingredients that was actually helping you. Maybe 4 out of the 5 ingredients were helping you, but that one ingredient was not. And so you wanted it off. But it's a bad account, so you want to get rid of it. So what you have to do is replace it with good history now. And so now I'm kind of getting into the consultation of it all. And it's just not really, I don't want to give you too much information because it can be overwhelming and kind of get confusing. But that's why I'm the professional, and I kind of know, and I'd have to look at every situation individually to kind of explain what that means. Because there's some people that will clean their credit off, their score will go down. But what you've done is you got rid of bad accounts, and now you need to replace it with good accounts. I would like to know how to get out of debt relief company I'm with. Well, you kind of have to ask them, because I don't know if you signed a contract with them. And you kind of have to ask them, if you terminate the contract early, do you still owe them money, or what will happen? And you also want to ask them, what do they do with the accounts that they're paying, if that's what they're doing? Because under my understanding is that you're paying them to pay your bills, but they close the accounts. So you want to find out what the status is of everything, because since you're in that situation, it might be more advantageous for you to stay and finish it out versus getting rid of them. So I don't really, every situation is different. So you would have to find out what the agreement is and what everything, what's happening. Are your accounts still open and they're paying them? Are they closed? What kind of agreement do they have with the accounts? So you might want to do a consultation with me. Okay, 7:00. Just access your ebook and subscribe. Thank you for sharing such important information. Appreciate you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for watching and saying, Okay, they're negotiating accounts. Yeah, why don't you do a consultation and we can further discuss, or you might want to look at their contract. But if you feel equipped enough to do these things on your own, since you have my book, the internet, and kind of have these things at your fingertips, the Consumer Financial Bureau and stuff like that, if you are willing to kind of do this, you can do it on your own. That's what me and my business partner, why we started this. We give you the tools to do this on your own. The thing that separates you and other people is that they don't do anything with the tools. Thank you so much. I'm not going to take any more of your time. I like to start on time. I also like to end on time. But yes, hit me up. Thank you so much. And I believe that is it.